Today's podcast looks at the English version of the song known as Geordie, a song of imprisonment, appeal and sadness. Along the way I'll sing some samples of tunes linked to the song and look at its background and printing history. The Scottish Geordie has been addressed in an earlier podcast. As I walked out over London Bridge, one misty morning early, I espied a fair young maid, lamenting for her Geordie. Go saddle me my milk-white steed, go saddle me my pony, that I may ride to London's court and plead for the life of Geordie. And when she came to London's court, there's lords and ladies many, she fell down on her bended knees to plead for the life of Geordie. Has Geordie gone and stole any cow or calf? Sheep has he taken any? He stole 16 of the king's royal deer and sold them in Bohenny. That tune was collected in 1904 by Cecil Sharp from Mrs. Lucy White of Hambridge in Somerset. The English version of Geordie has been and still is extremely popular with singers and listeners. The ballad has been widely sung throughout the British Isles and North America. Most variations follow the basic plot line. Geordie's wife receives information that he's imprisoned in London. She rides to the court to plead for his life and finds that Geordie has already been condemned to die on the gallows for stealing horses or royal deer. Despite her pleas, the judge is unable to grant a pardon. Geordie will be hung in chains of gold or a rope of silk because he was born of noble or royal blood and courted a virtuous lady. The theme is typical of the condemned man's confessions of the goodnight ballads so popular among the ballad sheet sellers. It is generally accepted that Geordie had its origins in a broadside called The Life and Death of George of Oxford that dates back at least to the mid-17th century. In that ballad the hero has been a thief who is loved by Lady Grey. She rides to Newcastle Court to plead for his life. The ballad contains many of the elements found in the more modern versions. The first verse begins with, "As I went over London Bridge, all on a misty morning, there I did see one weep and mourn, lamenting for his Geordie." The ballad also contains the "Go saddle me my milk-white steed" verse. The lady begs for the life of Geordie. The judge isn't able to grant her suit, and he states, "I never stole horse nor mare in my life." The ballad has a great deal of other detail that is typical of a goodnight ballad, but is not part of the Geordie song. Another broadside ballad, dating from the early 17th century, tells the tale of George Stool of Newcastle in Northumberland, and again has confessions of crime committed. In this broadside there is no lady begging for the life of Geordie, but it does have two verses that appear in the final song. Both ballads contain a variable refrain or burden. They were both reprinted as an appendix in Professor Child's The English and Scottish Popular Ballads. Child did not consider the English Geordie as a true ballad. Despite its immense popularity, it was a street song. Then Geordie will be hung in the chains of gold, the chains that you don't see many, for he was born of the noble blood, and he courted a virtuous lady. I wish I were on yonder hill, where times we courted many, with a broadsword aye and a pistol too. I'd fight for the life of me Geordie. Geordie will be hung in those chains of gold, those chains that you don't see many, and on his tombstone these words shall be writ. Here lies the heart of a lady. That tune and words were collected in 1908 by Cecil Sharp from Charles Neville of East Cocker in Somerset. Over the years, the storyline has been reduced down, perhaps through the oral process or, more likely, rewritten at some time and redistributed through the fairs, markets and street sellers to the general public. Bertrand Bronson tells us that the tune is of a favourite English pattern, found in a great variety of permutations. The basic structure of the melody remains constant, as would be expected when the song travels orally across the south of England. There are, of course, versions that do not conform with this basic pattern, such as the version sung by Henry Burstow of Horsham in Sussex under the title Banstead Downs, which departs from the usual tune base. The judge looked over his left shoulder. He seemed as he was very sorry. My pretty fair maid, you've come too late, for he's condemned already. He will be hung in a silken cord, where there has not been so many. For he came of the royal blood, and he courted a virtuous lady. I wish I was on yonder hill, where times I have been many, with a sword and buckler by my side, I'd fight for the life of Geordie. It is inevitable that the Scottish and English Geordie ballads should be compared. In early days of the English Folk Song Society, it was generally accepted that the English version was a later variant of the Scottish, but later evidence shows that the English Geordie had an independent origin. It is likely that when the English ballad was restructured into the form we now know, the storyline of the Scottish Geordie was seen as a good framework on which to hang the tale. The tradition being what it is, some of the later versions of the Scottish ballad do include verses from the English ballad, and some aspects of the Scottish ballad appear in some versions of the English, which of course adds to the confusion. This could be due to the widespread popularity of the English Geordie in the 18th and 19th centuries, influencing singers to add popular verses into the older ballad. If anyone has strong evidence to solve this conundrum, will they please share it with the rest of us? The tune and its variations are a delight to sing, and I feel that it's a contributing factor to the popularity and wide distribution of the Geordie ballad. I will end this podcast with a recording of Geordie sung by Ed McGurk, accompanied by Robin Madge on concertina.
As I rode over London Bridge one misty morning early, I overheard a fair pretty babe lamenting for her Geordie. Come bridle me, my milk-white steed, come bridle me, my pony, that I may ride to London town to plead for her life, Geordie. And when she gained the castle door, there were lords and ladies plenty. Down on her bended knee she fell to plead for the life of Geordie. But Geordie stole no cow nor calf, sheep he ne'er stole any. He stole 16 for the king's royal deer, and he sold them in Bohemia. Well, 6 pretty babes I've had by him, and another lies within me. I would freely part from them everyone if you'd spare the life of Geordie. Well, the judge looked over his left shoulder and he said, I'm sorry for thee, my pretty maid, you come too late, for he is condemned already. So let Geordie hang in a golden chain, such chains as never ready, because he came with a royal blood and he courted a virtuous lady. Oh, I wish I were in yon shady grove where times I